The Champions League Matchday 3 is officially over. It's finished. C'est fini. È finito. French, Italian, any language you want, I got it. But let me tell you, the games throughout this week were honestly incredible. Tons of upsets, last minute goals, crazy results, and I'm going to talk about it all right here in this video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. It is only right for me to start off with Manchester United against FC Copenhagen, because in this game, Harry Maguire scored a goal and Andre Onana made the save of his life. I bet you no United fan thought that on Wednesday morning, the highlights were going to be Harry Maguire scores the winner for Manchester United and Andre Onana saves them in the dire last minutes of the game. Honestly, it was crazy. Obviously, Copenhagen did play pretty well, but Manchester United, they did what they had to do and they ended up coming away with the 1-0 victory. The next game in Group A was Galatasaray against Bayern Munich. And Galatasaray played pretty good in this game. They looked like a threatening team. They had a lot of good chances, but they just couldn't finish. They did obviously get one goal, but Bayern Munich took their chances wisely. They scored 3 goals, and in my opinion, they did deserve to come away with this win. Moving on into Group B, the first game I'm going to talk about was Sevilla against Arsenal. And in my opinion, Arsenal were definitely the better team. But Sevilla had many chances, especially late in the game, to come back and possibly even get 3 points from this game. Obviously, make no mistake, Arsenal were definitely the favorites in this game. But Sevilla at home is always going to be a tough fixture. And for them to obviously score those 2 goals and then defend very well for the rest of the game, in my opinion, they definitely deserve this win. The other game in Group B was RC Lens against PSV Eindhoven. And this game ended in a 1-1 draw. But in my opinion, this is a very surprising result. Lens have had a horrible start in the Liga. They're in the bottom half. PSV Eindhoven, on the other hand, has had an incredible start in the Eredivisie. They're top of that league. So personally, I expected them to easily win this game. But Lens are proving that in the Champions League, they are a tough team to come against. They beat Arsenal, they drew against PSV, and I think they have a good chance to make it out of this group. Moving on into Group C, the first game we had was Union Berlin against Napoli. And personally, I thought this was a pretty poor performance by both teams. Union Berlin obviously did great defensively, and Napoli did as well. But on the attacking side of things, both teams were really lacking that quality in the final third. Obviously, Napoli did score 1 goal, and they did end up coming away with the win. But Union Berlin had a lot of chances to draw the game or even win the game. And obviously, me being a Napoli fan, I am incredibly happy that Napoli did end up winning this game. But it wasn't a good performance by both teams, in my opinion. The other game in Group C was Braga against Real Madrid. And one thing I have to say about this game is Jude Bellingham, the star boy, the best player on Real Madrid's team at the moment. He is absolutely incredible, and without him, Real Madrid would not be anywhere near as good as they currently are. Honestly, in this game, I thought that Braga were the better team. They had more shots, they had a much higher XG, almost double what Real Madrid had, and possession stats were very similar across both teams, and I thought Braga should have won this game. But the thing about Real Madrid is they have Jude Bellingham, and he was obviously the one who gave them this win, scored the winning goal. And like I said at the start of the Champions League campaign, Real Madrid are definitely favorites to top the group. And again, they showed in this game where even if they weren't the best team, they can still grind out the results. Moving on into Group D, the first game we had was Inter Milan against Salzburg. And I think this was a pretty obvious game, a pretty obvious result. I think a lot of people did expect Inter Milan to win this game. Salzburg are really proving to everyone that they are a good team, obviously playing very well against Benfica. They played well against Sociedad. They played well against Inter, but Inter Milan obviously capitalized off their chances. They won 2-1, and I think it was deserved. The next game in Group D was Benfica against Real Sociedad. And honestly, I'm very disappointed in Benfica. They still have 0 points in their group. Before this Champions League started, I thought, aside from Inter, Benfica were probably second favorites to make it out of this group. But they've been very disappointing. They lost at home in this game against Real Sociedad. They lost at home against Salzburg. And at this point, it looks like they may finish bottom of their group. Real Sociedad obviously played very well. They took their chance, they scored the goal, they grinded out for the rest of the game, and they did win 1-0. Moving on into the Wednesday fixtures, the first game we had was Feyenoord against Lazio, and Feyenoord destroyed Lazio 3-1. I predicted that this game was going to be a draw, but the reason I predicted this is because I forgot Santiago Giménez was playing in this game. I forgot. I thought he was still injured, but obviously he played, and he's the main reason why they won. Realistically, Santiago Giménez is one of the most informed strikers in the world right now. In the Eredivisie, in his first 9 games, he already has 16 goal contributions. He's averaging almost 2 goal contributions every single game he plays. And in this game, he was the difference. He was the main reason why Feyenoord scored their 3 goals. And obviously Lazio, they had a lot of chances and they could have drawn this game, but they didn't take their chances wisely and they did fall behind. The next game in Group E was Celtic against Atletico Madrid. And I personally thought Atletico Madrid were going to dominate this game and destroy Celtic. But Celtic proved to everyone in the world that they are a team that's worth recognizing as a Champions League worthy team. I do think that Atletico Madrid were the better team in this game. They had a lot of chances. They could have scored probably 3 goals, but Celtic took their opportunities, and after they scored those 2 goals, they defended very well for the rest of their game. Great saves by Joe Hart. The defense was amazing, and I think that they deserve to get this draw. Moving on into the group of death, the first game we had was Newcastle against Dortmund. And I think almost everyone predicted Newcastle to win this game, but Dortmund ended up coming out on top. And in my opinion, it was a great performance by them. Coming off the back of their humongous win against PSG, I thought Newcastle were going to easily win this game by 2, maybe even 3 goals. But Dortmund proved that they are still a good team. Maybe they're not as powerful as they were a few years ago, but they are still a good team. And I think they have a good chance to make it out of this group now. In terms of how the game went, I personally thought it was a pretty even game, but I thought Dortmund had a lot better shots than what Newcastle had. Now, towards the end of the game, the last 15 or 20 minutes, Newcastle were really pushing, they were attacking, they had a lot of shots, they were hitting the post, the crossbar, but it just wasn't meant to be. Dortmund deserved this win, and personally, I'm happy for the fans. The other game in Group F was PSG against AC Milan, and this was a demolition job by PSG. My prediction for this game was that it was going to be a draw because I thought both teams have had a pretty similar start to this Champions League campaign. But PSG showed their real quality in this game. Mbappe, Zaire Emery played an amazing game and he was the man of the match. And Milan just couldn't do anything about it. They had barely any shots. They didn't have a lot of possession. Defensively, they were incredibly poor. And PSG just looking like one of the better teams in this Champions League. Moving on into Group G, the first game we had was RB Leipzig against Crvena Zvezda. And to be fair, this game went pretty much how I expected it to. RB Leipzig were the dominant team, dominating possession. They had more shots. They were creating a lot of opportunities. I'm not saying Crvena Zvezda played poorly in this game. They still had 16 shots. They had a good amount of possession. But RB Leipzig had almost 30 shots, over 3 expected goals, 60% possession. And the scoreline, like I said, it reflects how the game went. The next game in Group G was Young Boys against Manchester City. And as you would expect, Manchester City dominated this game. They had almost 70% possession, over 4 expected goals, while Young Boys on the other hand didn't even have 0.5 expected goals. Now, the scoreline after the first half was actually very close. Both goals came around the 50th minute, and at a certain point it was 1-1. But in typical Manchester City fashion, Haaland came through, scored 2 goals, and they did deserve this win. And finally, the last group in the third match day is Group H, and the first game we had was Barcelona against Shakhtar Donetsk. If you look at the scoreline in this game, 2-1, you would think that it was a pretty close game, but in my opinion, Barcelona were clearly the dominant team in terms of possession, in terms of shots, in terms of chances created. They were definitely the better team. One player I have to shout out is Fermin Lopez. I'm pretty sure he just signed a new contract with Barcelona, but he was brilliant in this game. Definitely the man of the match, created so many opportunities, scored a crazy goal, but it was just, in general, a great performance by Barcelona. And finally, the last game in Group H and in the third match day was Royal Antwerp against FC Porto. And FC Porto showed in this game why they are still an incredible team and why they're a team that you never want to face up against in the Champions League group stages. Royal Antwerp did end up going in front very early on in this game, but FC Porto showed no relentlessness, no mercy, and they went crazy. Evan Nilsson scored a hat-trick in this game, and they were incredible goals, chipping the keeper, scoring volleys from the edge of the box. Honestly, it was an incredible performance by Porto. They dominated in terms of possession, shots, all the stats. They were clearly the better team. And sadly for Royal Antwerp, I think this does end their run in this Champions League. And that is the end of this video where I reviewed every single fixture from the third match day. If you guys want to see more Champions League content, Champions League predictions, Champions League match day reviews, maybe Europa League content, whatever content you guys want to see, let me know in the comments down below. And obviously, if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.